So it is Thanksgiving, but I'm going to spare you a talk on gratitude. You want to experience gratitude? Come this afternoon to Lissa's celebration. For those of you that are not watching, or that not with us here this morning, I want you to know that we are celebrating the life of Lissa Rowe. If you happen to have seen her talk about a month ago, she came here and wowed us with her wisdom about her direction and touched all of our hearts. And so we're celebrating her this afternoon. And then, of course, Thursday we're going to do Thanksgiving, and we'll have plenty of gratitude to share that day. So there's lots of that going around. I have been moved to move in a different direction this morning, have a different conversation with you. And I want to preface this by explaining that I am absolutely in principle with this talk, although it is a non-traditional talk. What I want to talk about are things that are creating a better world. And what I want from you is I want you to allow all of this information to just wash over you. With one exception, I want you all, I'm asking all of you to take one thing that you learn from this talk and share it with someone in your life so that it really anchors in your consciousness. Because there are some amazing things going on in the world, and by us believing them, and although I've researched all of these, I have not gone out into the world and seen them. I've learned about them through this thing called the internet, and I believe they're so. I want you to know, too, that they're so, because by doing that, your consciousness adds to this world being a better place. It's as important as the people that are creating these changes that you believe them, that you see the world improving. By doing that, you are contributing fully to these changes in the world. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to probably move through them rather quickly because it's a very busy day. And I'm going to ask for your indulgence that I'm wearing glasses because I want to be able to read this information. I have not memorized it all. You ready? Okay, here we go. You recognize that product? It's called styrofoam. It's used in building, it's used in shipping, it's used in lots of different ways. It's actually a petroleum product, and a lot of it ends up in landfills. Actually, plastic altogether, about 9 billion tons of plastic end up in landfills or in the ocean, which we don't even want to get into right now. But the fact is that there's not a good way to dispose of this stuff. And it lasts for hundreds of years. So that's truly a problem. So I want to introduce you to a new product, although not a new substance. It's called Mycelium. Anyone ever heard of Mycelium? We got one, two, okay. What it is it's the root of mushrooms. And the root of mushrooms, let's look at this. A mushroom that looks like that in the upper left, the root structure looks a lot like what's on the lower left of this slide. And when it is chopped up and mixed with organic material, it makes things like you're looking at on the other side of the slide. Those are actually, the top part are structures that someone can actually go into. So this product is usable for building materials, for shipping materials, for containers. These are 2 containers at the bottom that are made out of mycelium, mixed with other things, but it's a new way to create a styrofoam-like product that will, as soon as you're done with it, will decompose completely. Isn't that great? Yay. You make sure there's nothing else about that. Nope, that's it. The recycling and the composting aspect of this is what changes the entire game around that. And my great desire is that someday there won't be any styrofoam. There'll only be mycelium-based foam that is used for these purposes. All right. See how quickly we can get through these? All right. CO2 emissions. Everybody heard that that's an issue? Yeah, it's called greenhouse gases. And the idea is that these greenhouse gases are going up into the atmosphere, creating a layer that is not allowing the proper amount of sunlight and rays from the sun to come to warm the planet. So the planet is, in some cases, getting cooler, and in some cases, it's deteriorating the atmosphere in a way that lets it get too hot. It has potential for getting much, much worse. right? And a lot of it comes from factories, from what they expel in their processes. So what are we doing about that? Actually, there's a number of things that are being worked on diligently about this. The one that I want to talk about it comes from a company called Lanzotech. And what I also want to say is that in the industrial sector, this kind of application contributes about 30% of all the gases that end up ineffectively in our atmosphere. So Lanzotech has this new design. This is the very first plant. It's actually in China. And what Lanzotech does is it has identified bacteria that will ferment these gases and turn them into ethanol, which can be used as fuel. And ethanol has no emissions. It burns up completely. Is that not a game changer? Yay! This first plant in China, in its first year, produced 9 million gallons of ethanol from the one plant, mixed, and that has been mixed with jetliners in China to radically reduce their air pollution. Eventually, we will have planes that run entirely on ethanol, but right now, this is a big deal. So when we hear that the atmosphere is being destroyed by us, we're an intelligent species. And though we have plenty of people in the world that cry that the world is coming to an end because of these problems, the fact is that because we are an intelligent species and because we are the divine, we have within us ways to rectify these things. And when we know this, we don't think that the world's coming to an end. And then when we see them on news reports or in presidential debates or anywhere else, we know that things are changing because of this kind of information. Okay, let's see. What's our next one? Our next one has to do with wind. Now, that's not wind, that's water. But the thing about, have you ever seen the wind turbines out? I've seen a lot of them in California, and they're in rows, and they have these turbines that turn, and that's not very effective. And the reason is that any place on land, because of the topography of the land, things are not being level. It shifts the air and doesn't let the air really just get after it and really blow like it can. The place where that works is in the ocean. And in the ocean, where this great wind is that could be harnessed, the problem is this, that the ocean's too damn deep. And to build structures that would sit on the ocean floor and then come up into the wind and capture the wind and harness it doesn't really work. So a company has come up with a solution to this on these and where you get at, then you don't have to go out very far into the ocean to find this, where it's too deep. They have created floating spaces, structures like this that have, you see that thing that looks like a plane that's going up in the air? That's actually a device that it's got 8 rotors on it, and it captures and harnesses electricity by those rotors spinning on there. Now, this one shows it going straight up. This was just a really clear picture of the platform. But what it does is it's tethered to that structure, this thing, little model airplane-looking thing, and it goes around and around and up and down, and it catches the wind, and it spins 24 hours a day. And it sends the electricity that's created in the 8 generators on this very small plane back to this structure, which then, if you can look in the lower left here, you can see that it's not that far off the land. And what it's doing, it's got a cable that runs to the shore that actually can provide, let me look at my notes so I give you really good numbers on this. It can provide hundreds of millions of people in coastal communities with electricity for only the cost of this kind of equipment, which is so much cheaper than anything else we've ever known. Hundreds of millions of people getting their electricity from the wind. Isn't that brilliant? Okay, you think these things are cool. Check this one out. Biggest malady in the human experience, right? Cancer. Lots of others, but cancer seems to be that one that takes so many of the people we love and makes life so hard on people that have to go through that. And you know they've been researching ways to prevent cancer forever for decades. And they're actually onto something that I wanted to share with you. A vaccine. A vaccine, not just a vaccine for one kind of cancer, but a vaccine that they have identified that will affect 31 different carcinogenic tumors and either destroy them or delay them from developing. A vaccine. Now, they have not started human trials yet. That's not how it works. Here's where they are. They're testing them on dogs. And they're getting wonderful results. 800 dogs have received the vaccine. I think in many cases, the reason dogs are such a good study is because dogs live with us. And they're exposed to the same elements and carcinogens and conditions that humans are. So they're the perfect people. And if you've ever known somebody that had a dog with cancer, it's not that rare. So what they're finding is these vaccines are working pretty well on dogs. They're very, very hopeful. And the next step is that they'll be moving into human trials. Wouldn't it be lovely in our lifetime that there could actually be a vaccine that could prevent the 31 major kinds of cancers from ever developing in our bodies? I'm so excited about this. Thank you, puppies. Yeah. Housing. We all hear that housing is an issue for a lot of people. And interestingly, I kind of expected this might happen. I'm out of order. Then I will do this from memory. Okay, so here's the deal. There are lots and lots of homeless people. There are lots of people that have challenges with living arrangements, the cost of housing, and so on. At least in the United States, this is an issue. This is something that our culture needs to, our society needs to find solutions to. So here are some of the things that are coming up. One that I found very clever is this. This is called a 3D printer house. No, this house was made with a 3D printer. Now, that's not the only thing they're doing. They've got houses that come in cases or crates that can be assembled, that have information, and someone just puts them together. But obviously, this is a very small house, but it's space for one or two people to live semi-comfortably in something they can afford. So I'm fascinated with this. There's all kinds of new models for how to create housing that doesn't start with a concrete foundation and building walls and putting up siding and all. It's something like this. So things are changing with housing. Another way that things are happening, this is a clever idea that colleges are looking at, to cohabitate college students with seniors. Many of you probably have heard of that, but I still think that's a clever idea to accommodate people that can coexist without the family issues, many of them anyway. So that's another element of this housing situation. You know what that represents, right? Diabetes. Another major issue, health issue in the human experience is that there's two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 you're born with, type 2 you acquire because of an imbalance in your body. In either case, that's what it comes to, is pricking your skin and drawing blood and getting it tested, or they have this lovely thing now that you wear on you and you can put a device up to and it'll tell you what your blood sugar levels are. In either case, the single remedy that medicine seems to use is to inject insulin into your body. Honestly, that's not good for people. But that's what we do, because that's what we've had for decades to do with this. So where are we going with this? This is a stem cell. And researchers and developers have found that presenting a particular kind of stem cell into the body creates what's called a beta cell. And a beta cell that actually can release insulin naturally into your body. The same way your pancreas is supposed to. But now it's in cells all over your body. This changes the whole thing, especially of type 1 diabetes. People that have no choice but to take those drugs and to do those things will now have the opportunity to simply have stem cells injected into their bodies and no longer have diabetes. I know. If you know anything about diabetes, that is a really, really big deal. Okay, diabetes. Nuclear power. Boy, when it first came out, it was the rage. It was the thing that was going to fix everything. And then we had Chernobyl. And then we had the tsunami in Japan. And we have these things where thousands of people have died because of the ineffectiveness of traditional forms of nuclear power. And so it's really been stopped in many places in the world where we no longer have nuclear power. But Barbara actually found this one when she was reading something about Bill Gates. Bill Gates is on this case, and there are actually several possibilities around the replacement for this that are very exciting. Gates's, I think, is the most exciting. This is a different kind of nuclear reactor. It's called a Generation 4, a Gen 4 nuclear reactor. And what it does, it takes all the waste from those other reactors and uses it to create electric energy until it is completely gone. I know. Changing the entire experience and not having that highly intense level of nuclear concentration that we are accustomed to. So when these other nuclear power plants that are still around have their waste, it can go to this kind of a plant and actually be used till it's completely gone. Yay. And change everything about how we do this in a really good way. All right. Remember this? This was from Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. Thank you, in Puerto Rico. That was a mess, but cleaning up the mess was not the hard part. The hard part was that there was no electricity, not just for a week or a month, but in some cases, people lost their electricity for a year or longer. There and in the Bahamas with Hurricane Dorian. And there was just no way to reestablish it. There was no system for that until now. And it comes from something like this. Now that looks mighty big, but actually that measures 3 feet wide and 8 feet long. And it can be picked up by 2 or 3 men and moved into place. And here's what's inside it. Solar panels. Enough solar panels to run several houses on a regular basis. Obviously, there is a limited amount of battery available with this, but the fact that those solar panels are up is so much better than not having any electricity at all. And this can be transported to a place that's been affected by hurricanes or earthquakes or anything of the sort very quickly, because they're stored at different places around the world, strategic places where they can be shipped in immediately. So people are back down to having a power shortage for a very short time as they're rebuilding their homes and their lives. This completely changes the game of how we support people. It's a good one. You know that populations of whales have diminished dramatically over the years. It was in the 1950s that the count of whales in the world was down to 450, which meant that they were near extinction, because that's a very small number worldwide. But since then, because most countries in the world have made it illegal to hunt these animals, they have recovered to where the last counts have them up at around 25,000. Yeah. So that they're happy and they're making babies. And they're doing their good work in the oceans because they are integral to the health and well-being of our oceans. So it's not just that a species could have been lost, but it would have created an imbalance in the oceans that would have had a direct impact on our lives. And that has turned around because we came to our senses and we stopped hunting these animals. Welcome back, home back. Take a peek at these brands. See if you recognize them. These are from a company called Nestle. Oh, you know you have these things in your house, even though you may not think Nestle's is such a great company. See if you know what these are. Well, it tells you it's Unilever. And most of these you don't recognize because they're in other parts of the world. But there are some that you'll recognize: Lipton, Knorr, Pond's, Dove, Dawn. We got Dawn in our kitchen over here. So really, in most circles, environmental circles, these two corporations are considered those that do more to pollute our planet with their packaging than anybody else. So the good news is that Unilever and Nestle have made a commitment to create a recycle program through a company called Loop that is going to give anyone who wants it the opportunity to buy these products, have them delivered to your home, and even ice cream can come in a properly boxed up, insulated container that when you're done with the product, you simply wash out the container, put it back in the box, and when it's full, you free ship it back to the company. I know. Because right now, all of us are throwing all that stuff away. We're actually putting it into our recycle, a lot of it, but it's still ending up a lot of it in landfills. So these two companies agreeing to do this is changing the whole game on how much we're creating as far as waste out of plastic and non-recyclable containers. So thank you, Unilever and Nestle, for making this move. I know it's not cheap. I know it's not easy, because I believe it's Haagen-Dazs is now made in California, and most of it's eaten in New York. But they can still do it. So this Loop organization is going to make that happen. So perhaps you'll have a container with Loop on the side in your home before long, and you'll be part of that. This has been an issue as long as humans have been on the planet, that some people live in abject poverty. They live in a place that keeps them from thriving. It keeps them in a survival mode their entire lives. And many of them don't have very long lives. If you look at these children, many of them have distended bellies, which means they're not receiving the right nutrition to do this. And as far back as I believe it was the 1970s. Yeah, back in the 1970s, 50% of the world lived like this. Half of the people on the planet were undernourished, did not have opportunity, were not able to move forward. This is one I've got some great notes on, so you're going to bear with me just a second, and I'm going to... Here we are. I was wrong. It's 1966, half people on the earth. Today, actually in 2018, because they haven't got the numbers for 2019 yet, 9% of people that live on the planet live in abject poverty. Here's how we know this. What's called the Social Progress Index released their 2019 report, which would be on 2018. Their index says, is the first holistic measure of a country's social and environmental performance that is independent of economic factors. That's important. And serves as a complement to economic measures like gross domestic product to understand the true state of a society. Data is collected from over 7 billion people living in 149 countries and focuses on identifying trends and how those relate to 17 sustainable development goals that the Social Progress Index uses to measure forward movement regionally and globally. This year's report states, and I quote, "In general, the world is improving." Since 2014, the world average score increased from 61.8 to 64.0 24/7, and there has been improvement on 8 of the 12 primary social progress components. Components include categories of basic human needs, foundations for well-being, and opportunities for personal improvement. The world is getting safer. It is getting better for human beings. Yay. We're doing good. Yay. And my last one. Oh, these are the kids that I want to show you that are happy, that are finding a different world. Yay. We hear a lot about global warming, about the effects, the fires, the droughts, and these are 2 examples I found online that kind of represent that. And many people think, well, that's where we're going, and it's just not getting any better. I have news. According to a study conducted by NASA, the world is 5% greener today than it was 2 decades ago. 5% greener. The U.S. Space Agency claims that leaf cover on Earth has increased by 2 million square miles since the early 2000s, which is roughly equivalent to the area covered by the Amazon rainforest. We're getting greener. We're cleaning it up. So when someone in your life tells you that things are so bad and they're not getting better, they're not stupid, they're just uninformed. Inform them. Tell them that that's not so, that the world is getting better. We're doing a good job of being humans on planet Earth. And again, by you knowing these things, by you remembering some of this and telling people in your life, you are affirming and creating that. We're religious scientists, so we understand how this works. If we believe it is so, it shows up in our lives. So believe this stuff and use it in your life and live according to this wonderful information. We are getting better. We are doing good work, and you and I are part of it. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for being with me in creating a better world. I love you very much.
Hi, I'm Barbara Waterhouse.
And I'm John Waterhouse. Thank you for watching this message today.
Through our website, cslasheville.org, we have over 1,000 messages, classes, and New Thought books, all to download at no charge to anyone.
Producing this incredibly valuable collection of ideas is really making a difference in the world. It's changing lives everywhere.
Please go to our website, cslasheville.org, and click the Donate button. You can support this life-changing ministry, and when you do, we'll send you a note of thanks and also put you on our daily prayers.
By doing this, you're helping to raise the consciousness of people across the entire globe. We're changing lives together, those lives that are being more prosperous, more healthy, and more joyous. Thank you for being a part of this important work and supporting what we do here at CSL Asheville.
Thank you.